Floor to Mr. Stefan Omollo.
Thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity to brief the Council on the humanitarian disaster now unfolding in Sudan. Excellencies, the World Food Programme and other humanitarian agencies have been warning for months now of the widespread collapse in food security across the country. We have been clear that famine is real and dangerous possibility caused by the raging conflict, widespread displacement, and above all the denial of the humanitarian access by the warring parties. In March this year, the WFP briefed the Council members following the release of a white note on the Resolution 2417, which signaled that famine was imminent. We warned then that aid agencies were being blocked from accessing significant parts of the country with food and other essential supplies. But our warnings have not been heard. The Famine Review Committee, FRC, has concluded that there is famine in Zamzam camp near El Fasher in North Darfur. The FRC is also warning that other areas in Darfur and elsewhere are at a high risk of famine if urgent action is not taken to provide life-saving assistance at the required scale. But as you've heard from my colleague in OCHA, more than half of Sudan's population is facing crisis levels of hunger, and the numbers continue to climb. Over 750,000 people are currently classified as being in IPC Phase 5. They are experiencing catastrophic levels of food insecurity. And an estimated 730,000 children are projected to suffer severe acute malnutrition this year, the most life-threatening form of malnutrition. This is the first time that the committee has confirmed a famine for more than 7 years, and the only third time since the global monitoring system was launched 20 years ago. Now, conditions throughout Sudan are indeed appalling and getting worse by the day. This forgotten crisis has not received the political and diplomatic attention it desperately needs, and yet it has wider implications and threatens to destabilize the wider region. But last week's confirmation of famine must serve as a wake-up call for the international community and for the members of this council. There must now be a coordinated diplomatic effort to address the widespread operational challenges and impediments that aid agencies are facing every day as we try to reach millions of Sudanese people in abject need. All parties to this conflict are failing to meet the obligations and commitments under the international humanitarian law. We all know that the humanitarian space is shrinking all the time. Expanding access and new supply lines across the borders and across the conflict lines are vital to enable aid agencies to meet the extraordinary needs that exist today. But the obstacles to securing them are truly immense. Both parties to the conflict are routinely blocking requests for cross-line clearances. This is severely restricting the amount of aid getting through and preventing us from operating at scale. Now, restrictions imposed on cross-border routes are another major obstacle, preventing agencies from reaching communities in Darfur and the Kordofans. The Tene crossing from Chad is open, but the rainy season has significantly reduced delivery capacity and is unlikely to be usable for much longer. It is therefore essential that the Adre crossing is officially made available to aid agencies without further delay. Sustained and predictable flows of humanitarian supplies are crucial to halt the mounting death toll. Excellencies, despite the huge challenges faced by our teams on the ground, WFP is working day and night to get life-saving food where it is needed the most. We are significantly scaling up operations across the country to curb the spread of famine, boosting our capacity, presence, and resources. Now, we aim to substantially increase the number of people we support. WFP will prioritize reaching people facing emergency and catastrophic levels of hunger, IPC 4 and 5, along with those who have been internally displaced. WFP will also continue supporting refugees who have fled the bloodshed into neighboring countries such as Chad, South Sudan, and Libya. We intend to provide a mix of in-kind food assistance with cash deployed wherever markets are still functioning. We will also procure locally when feasible and in an effort to support local markets and economies. Excellencies, humanitarian agencies will do everything we can to prevent famine from engulfing in Sudan. But we can only operate where conditions allow and where we are granted access. Now more than ever, we need the Security Council to focus on this crisis and use its influence on the warring parties to halt the conflict that is tearing Sudan apart. A ceasefire remains the only sustainable solution that will prevent further spread of famine. Until that day, we urgently need the Council's help to ensure we can carry out our work effectively and without interference. Now, first, we increased and flexible funding to support the rapid scale-up of the relief operation. Sudan is critically underfunded, as you've heard from my colleague Nocha, and this has to change if we are to save lives. Second, we need effective diplomacy to secure cross-border supply routes via Adre and other border entry points from Chad, South Sudan, Libya, and Egypt. Third, we need your assistance to stop routine interference with humanitarian deliveries and movements, including a range of bureaucratic restrictions. And finally, all parties must uphold their commitments under international humanitarian law under Resolution 2417. Halting the famine now underway requires political will and leadership. WFP calls on the Security Council to provide it. The people of Sudan, exhausted by war and broken by hunger, deserve no less. We must not let them down. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank Mr. Omollo for his briefing. I now give the floor to those council members who wish to make statements.